Hi, thank you very much for joining me to learn the answer to a question that I received quite a bit ago, and that question is written down in my notebook as who the hey is Ty Warner, and this question comes to me from Brush Booze, LPS, and more, so hello to you, thank you very much for the question, and this is actually a question kind of detailing a person's life and like what they've accomplished and what they've done, so I'll be putting all the research that I got for this video, like the links to the websites that I got, in the description. So if you want to learn while you're watching or learn more afterwards, those are there for you. And what I'll be doing throughout this video is kind of including basic facts about this person, like milestones in their life, and then pretty much towards the end, like including what makes them significant. So that's kind of how I'm doing this. So let's get started. So to get started, who we are talking about today is H. Ty Warner, who was born on September 3rd of 1944 in Chicago, Illinois. We're not exactly sure what the H stands for, like there's no confirmations on it, but the main theory is that the H stands for Harold because his father's name was Harold Warner and then his mother's name was Georgia Warner, so we think the H stands for Harold, but that's not confirmed, so who knows. Now, in regard to his childhood and kind of growing up alongside his family, because it was Ty Warner, his sister Joyce, and then his two parents, it was kind of a rocky and general tense situation, which the family was fairly productive, like both parents worked. His mother was a pianist, and then his father was at one point a jeweler, and then another point a toy salesman, which kind of holds some significance, but I'll explain that more later. And the relationship between Ty's parents during the marriage eventually got strained enough that they got a divorce in 1971, and people theorize that one of the reasons for this was because Ty's mother was eventually diagnosed as paranoid schizophrenic, so that put a lot of stress on the family in general. And while Ty was growing up alongside all of the marital strain that his parents were facing, his educational pursuits were actually going pretty well. Like, he of course went through like elementary school, that was like K through 13, and then after that he went into like a high school where he was 14 and he did about 3 terms. And after 3 terms at that high school, he changed where he actually got his education because he went into a boarding school, pretty much like a military academy, where he pursued, of course, like his basic studies, but he also went into like basketball, baseball, football. He was in an honor society at one point, so you know, fancy schmancy, pretty good at school, and then he eventually graduated from there in 1962. And although he could have stopped after high school to kind of pursue his education, he decided to attend Kalamazoo College for drama for about a year, and it didn't really last that long because of finances, so it was like he couldn't necessarily go there and get a full degree, but he tried it out. And because he tried it, he found out that he really liked drama, so he made the big decision to move out to Hollywood and stayed there for like 5 years, trying to, you know, like make a name for himself, but he struggled a lot, so he had to like work multiple jobs, which honestly, that's still relevant for like a lot of people today. So it's good to see that people still try, because it's a hard thing to get into, and he tried it. And although he put a lot of effort into trying to make his name big out in Hollywood, it didn't work out, so he eventually had to move back to Chicago and work with his dad at a toy company. And although the prospects of working for a toy company weren't as like exciting as making it out in Hollywood, it worked out pretty well because Ty Warner was like a pretty impressive worker, so his dad giving him kind of that edge to get into the job was very helpful. And further along the line in his life, to make things more interesting for himself, he decided to move to Italy, and because of that eventually got fired because he decided to try and make his own like plush toys that he saw at the company, but he saw the way they did them in Italy and was really impressed, and the company that he worked for didn't like that, so they said, "You're fired, haha funny." And the first ever kind of toy that he actually made was like a little black plush cat, because he used techniques he saw in Italy as well as the company that he worked for in the US to make it, and it was actually pretty high quality for what it was, and because people actually started to like them, he made his own company in 1986 called Ty Inc. Which, what is crazy to me is the fact that when he first started selling these things, they were like $5, which by today's standards is like super cheap. And with the original Beanie Babies that he sold, which is what they were pretty much called because of the materials that were used, they were always sold in like limited stock, which helped to regulate demand, because if you know that there's a limited supply, you're gonna want to get what's there, so people always rushed to try and get them. And once the company got further along and there was essentially like a Beanie Baby craze, one of the worst things happened for this dude. Like, I kind of feel bad, but at the same time I don't. Because there was such a craze behind the Beanie Babies that he sold, he of course made a lot of them, like different kinds, different animals, and that meant that he was getting a lot of money. But that was the bad thing, because he ended up hiding a lot of the money that he made in a Swiss bank account, and it was like reported that he did not report like $107 million in that bank account, which, you know, is not good, because that can essentially result in like tax fraud because you're not reporting all the income that you get, which is basically what he did, because it was like in a foreign bank account, like it wasn't in the US, so the US didn't know about it. But when they knew about it, they're like, you can't do that. But once it came time for like a jury to actually assess all the stuff that was going on with all the money that he wasn't reporting, he essentially escaped prison time because people were like, this isn't a bad guy and he can kind of pay off his jail sentence, which is essentially what happened. And once people heard that he escaped jail time and wasn't really sentenced to anything, they weren't exactly happy, because it's like, oh, the rich can just get out of jail because they got money, huzzah. In general, it just wasn't a good situation, because he also like helped to pay and give money towards charities. So people are like, this guy's just trying to make himself look better so he does not like face the consequences, which is like a belief some people still have. But you know, what can you do, I guess. And I mean, right now he's living pretty quietly, like he's 79, so he's pretty old. He still owns Thai Inc., so he's getting money from that. And then he also owns a Four Seasons hotel in New York, so he's getting money from that. So basically what this guy's life has been up to this point was grow up, go to school, go to Hollywood to try and act and do drama, do not do good at that, so move back to Chicago to work with your dad at a toy company. Work with your dad for a while, make a better product, go to Italy, see how they're doing that, make your own toy company, be really successful at it, but commit tax fraud, and then get caught for it, but then you're okay. I mean, in terms of my general opinion, I think Beanie Babies are pretty great. I've owned a few, you know, growing up. I think my favorite is like the Beanie Baby snail. I had that one. I think it's somewhere, but probably most people, like especially like your parents or something, they've probably owned a Beanie Baby. I know there are people who sell them for like hundreds of dollars if they're like really rare Beanie Babies, but in general they're cute. I just didn't know that there was kind of like a tragic and kind of sketchy backstory behind them. But if you own a Beanie Baby, check the tag, and if it says it's from Thai Inc., then you know who the man is, and that's pretty epic. Also, if you have a Beanie Baby and it has the little tag with the name on it, feel free to share what the name is, because that's probably my favorite thing about Beanie Babies. I think it's cool. But that essentially is the long and kind of vague and complicated answer. Once again, if you would like to learn more about it yourself, I will put links in the description so you can do more research if you would like to. But that is basically the answer to the question, so thank you very much for watching. Bye.